This is very loud.
So hello, welcome to this session about the business models in urban farming. We talked a lot about policies, communities, and I think also the business models are an important part if you talk about urban agriculture. So your host today for this session, my name is Nele Lauwers. I work for Boerenbond, which is a farmers organization in Belgium with farmers with very diverse business models, both in the cities but mostly around cities. I'm also happy to do this session together with you, Henry. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, always great to work with you. I'm Henry. I think I was introduced earlier. I'm the European that sounds like a loud American.
That's it, so we take some speed. What we will do now, all is right, unless the timing, no, little joke, but we will start with a little talk about the FOA barometer that we launched just recently, and then we give the floor to four very interesting speakers who will also touch different issues concerning business models. And let's have a look first at the first results of the barometer. Just maybe some words about what is the aim, what is the idea behind this. It's actually to launch a survey online, short survey for professional urban farmers. It's not a scientific one, but it's more to like create a snapshot of how are professional urban farmers in Europe doing these days, to have like an idea. And also a conversation starter to have to organize a networking event also online where we discuss the results of this first survey and also give the opportunity to the professional farmers to connect to other farmers throughout Europe. This is quite unique, but it's, I think, an essential part. Also to add, it's a quarterly event and a survey, so we just started this beginning April for the first time, and we will do 3 other surveys during the coming year. So the first survey we had like 26 respondents. It's not huge, I know, but it's a decent start. We had respondents from the different types, and I used like the types that was mentioned in the very nice glossy you should get and can look at on the website. Most respondents, of course, were within the urban farm category and the zero acreage farm. There was one linked to the do-it-yourself farm. I think that's the most new type, I feel, in the typology, and also some were related to the social farm. We will now, or Henry will now give some insights, some conclusions from this first survey. We won't show specific numbers or figures. I would invite you then to go to YouTube and watch the or review the session online. But time is short, so we just give you some insights that we learned from this first survey.
Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely watch it. It's really interesting data, and also help us for the next quarter to increase the number of respondents, because we're trying to understand business models. We're getting urban farmers to submit data, and the more the merrier, as they say. So let's start off with the first question, which was related to profits. So in our findings, we found that actually a large majority of the respondents were increasing the percentage of profits relative to the previous year, which is good news. Now, when we dug into the data, we saw that those projects that were, so to say, outdoor farms, more soil-based, were connected to consumers that were picking up the product or subscribing, they were more likely to be profitable. But obviously zero acreage farming, vertical farming in particular, in the face of high energy prices, have really been negatively affected. So I think there's a couple reasons why there was a range of profitability. One, again, I think that some of the outdoor farms perform better in Europe, or they at least did in this survey, and that the indoor farms suffered. We also know that outdoor farms can diversify their revenue more easily than zero acreage farms, which are typically closed. But these outdoor farms can have workshops and events, which can really add to the profitability beyond the food product. So hope that's clear. And then from a sales perspective, we also saw that subscriptions, meaning community support agriculture, were a critical part of how a lot of these farms in Europe that responded were getting their revenue. And again, I think that typically relates more to outdoor farming models versus the zero acreage indoor farming models. Let's continue. So as I mentioned on the revenue side and the profitability, there was quite a bit of responses on the services. So again, in addition to selling the food product, we know that urban farms can generate revenue off hosting weddings, workshops, school tours, educational activities. This remains a critical piece of the business models for urban agriculture across the world, but as demonstrated in this survey in Europe in particular. And again, zero acreage farms are mostly focused on yields and selling to maybe more retail customers in the future. So consistency is really their game, while the other urban farms have more of a range of revenue activities. We talked about how to tackle rising costs and some of the challenges the farms are facing. A lot of them noted increased in input costs was one of their issues, various challenges around energy as inputs, of course. And one of the ways we sort of brainstormed on the webinar to talk about this was how do you create collaboration between these groups? A lot of farms have to go through the same journey of sourcing product, finding where to get the seeds, where to get the substrates, where to get the labor. All those things can be solved by creating more collaboration so that the best practices from one is passed on to the other. But we also talked about various strategies for managing operating costs that could be shared between them. So breaking down those barriers between urban farms in specific regions and creating those ecosystems is going to be critical for their resilience and their profitability. We also asked a good question there that you prepared, which is how are you feeling? And I think there was a pretty mixed bag, but there were a number of urban farms that were feeling kind of sad, depressed, stressed out. And we talked in the webinar about why this happens. For me, having worked with many, many entrepreneurs, I think that there's a lot of naivety when it comes to urban agriculture. You sort of have this idea, I'm going to be working on a farm, I'm going to be in this green space, I'm going to be feeding my community, when in reality margins are thin, policymakers don't really get what you're doing, investors want money quickly if you raise money, and that's very stressful. You've got a lot of issues when managing labor and keeping them retained. So what that translates to is that the journey towards success in urban agriculture almost always is longer than the entrepreneurs expect. So I think the first step is really being honest and promoting a culture of honesty about what this journey takes for the entrepreneurs and the leadership to improve their mental health. And then of course, again, just talking about that as a community to say, look, this is difficult. We have a socially minded venture or business, which is more difficult than one that's just focused on profit. So let's talk about how we feel, and let's try to improve our collective mental health. So I thought that was a really nice question to ask, and we'll see if we can improve the mental health quarter by quarter. I think that covers it.
That's it, Henry. Following, and I think the talking and the connection of the farmers was very appreciated. Also in the online one-on-one networking event that followed the discussion. It's also concerning that I need a break feeling because they're all working hard, spending a lot of hours thinking, what am I doing exactly? Or their partner asked them, what are you doing? How can we keep this speed? So it's really important that they connect to each other, that they learn from each other, that they recognize each other's challenges and find solutions together. So therefore it was very much appreciated that we connected them in those short one-on-one online meetings. So just the topics discussed were very diverse, but essential was that they could broaden their network with other urban farmers around Europe. So vital to this, we can say that growing the network is quite unique still in Europe. Some countries like France is in the front of building networks, I guess, in Europe. But a European network is still quite absent, especially because it covers all the different types of urban agriculture. But next to this, you also feel we need that ecosystem supporting. So this makes an excellent bridge, I guess, to the next speakers coming up, who will be talking about policies, will be an essential aspect in those ecosystems. But also, what can we learn from urban farmers in New York? And finally, also essential, it's about businesses, it's about creating opportunities, and we are very happy to have another European project here present who has a call now even for with funding opportunities. So I think we can invite the first speaker then.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, definitely watch the webinar and help us get more responses in the future. I just want to make sure that they're clear that we need your help with that, because I think this barometer is going to be critical for fostering that network that is necessary. So let's get in. We've got multiple presentations here, and we'll try to have time for questions each time. First up, we have Daniele Taffon from Campagna Amica Italy. Let's have a round of applause for Daniel.
Quite
Is it
easy.
Daniele? Daniele. Scusi.
Okay. I'm sorry for my English, the first thing, okay? And so be patient. Okay. Local food challenges to the experience of Campagna Amica. The title is different, but the content is the same, okay? Who we are? I write something to be clear. It's a pleasure to tell our experience to so many people around the world. My name is Daniele Taffon. I live in Italy, in Rome, and I work in the Coldiretti. Coldiretti is the largest agriculture organization in Europe. But I need my glass. Okay. And so Coldiretti is the largest agricultural organization in Europe and works for the rights of Italian farmers. When I speak about farmers, I speak about professional farmers. It is a farmers' union. Through Campagna Amica, the foundation born 15 years ago, Coldiretti has created about 1,000 farmers' markets with direct sales in Italy. This means preserving the Italian agriculture tradition, the environment, natural and agricultural biodiversity, rural society, the small villages scattered in the countryside. We like to say that our farmers are the guardians of the Italian countryside. The fight against the overbuilding of the soil, erosion, loss of biodiversity, fragmentation of ecosystems, deforestation, fires, floods, illegal landfills. You remember, in the 90s, the scandal and the concern over bovine spongiform encephalopathy. Do you remember? Okay, BSE. Citizens from all over the world, and Italians, began to ask themselves more insistently what origin the food had, and how it was produced. This was one of the reasons that prompted the government of Italy to approve the law on modernization of agriculture. Thanks to this law, in Italy, today it's possible to have farmers' markets in an organized way. We can also have a lot of touristic services in agritourism. We can do didactic and social farming in the territories. The farmers can transform their products and sell them like farmers and not like traders. And so, as I told you, Campagna Amica was established to give to Coldiretti farmers enrolled in its register the possibility to propose their products in an organized farmers market. In the same time, Campagna Amica was born to allow consumers to make an informed, ethical, territorial, diversified food shopping. In this way, Campagna Amica entered the centers of Italian cities, allowing the consumers to have a local food experience. What do I mean? Local food is not only energy and matter, you know, but also bearer of positive values and externalities, biodiversity and landscape conservation, culture, ecological services, beauty, spirituality, etc., etc. And so, we can summarize with our mission. 100% of made in Italy food, a sustainability model of production under the economic, environment, and the social perspective, preserve the integrity of our biodiversity. And now I want to tell you that we have a project, sales of a Campagna Amica project, 500 products saved and 1,000 more to save, that we sell in our markets, in our farmers' market. And so we can value these products and save them. And we work to introduce a mandatory country of origin labeling system for all food, processed or not, fair market competition based on transparency and legality, shorter supply chain through a network of farmers' markets. I repeat, when I speak of a farmers' market, I speak professional farmers' market. But in this way, urban agriculture is important to have a society informed about local food. And so farmers' market and urban agriculture, urban gardens, didactic in the schools is very important for us. The network of Campagna Amica is a unique model of short value chains, and its members respect the same rules of management in terms of the brand. This is the logo. We have Campagna Amica for everything, Campagna Amica social farming, didactic of Campagna Amica. We have also farmers market of Campagna Amica. We have the biodiversity of Campagna Amica, okay? And we use the same brand for everything. The regulation about the use of the brand, the behavioral rules, the code of ethics on environmental issues, the control system. So everything is the system of Campagna Amica. And these are the numbers. In 2009, our network included 500 farmers markets. Today, we have 1,200 farmers markets, 7,000 farms, 2,500 agritourism, and this is important, in 2020, during the pandemic, despite the challenges to operate, sales went up by 20%. Markets attracted 5% more people. 43 new farmers markets were opened in 1 year. I want to tell you that we have also e-commerce caused by COVID emergency. We are the largest direct sell network under the same brand, which involves more than 10,000 direct sales farms and generates a turnover of 3.5 billion and a value that has almost doubled over the past 2 years. Okay, I show you 2 farmers market, indoor farmers market. One in Rome and the second in Milan. I want to tell you about my experience in Rome. I live in Rome, and so when I entered in this farmer market, this is the ancient Jewish fish farmer market. Okay, but it was a park of the car of administration. And so oil everywhere, cars everywhere, waste everywhere. I entered with my colleagues inside this market, and it was a disaster. Okay. And now, this is a farmer's market, okay, where more than 50 farmers can save their activities, and the local communities has the possibility to have a real food experience. It was not so easy. One, to open a farmer's market, we need to understand the right place in terms of access, public transports, parking possibility, population density, tourist attractiveness, and is the place single out private or public? And so a lot of time to explain the project. If public, the administration must prepare a public call with all the hours for local food, biodiversity products, waste management, non-pollution events to transport products, all farmers documentation. The proposal project to win the call. Okay, we win the call and start all the culture animation of the market. Not only food, but also music, talk, book presentation, didactic events, etc., etc. And then involve association, public entities, private organization, NGO, and the management of a relationship between farmers, consumers, workers, a lot of things. But now, I like just 1 minute to show you these important things. Launched in July 2021, and this is the World Farmers Market Coalition, the important coalition that was born in 2021, and this is one of the 10 FAO programs selected within the Food Coalition project. Our mission is to have farmers market everywhere in the world, also in Belgium. This is our numbers, 40 countries around the world, 60 members associations. But now I want to tell you that in 1 month, 22 of May, we'll have the General Assembly of World Farmers Market Coalition. With we will speak about the rules and how to enlarge this coalition. And so stay tuned, because I think that it's an important thing to have a new perspective of our world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniele. We can take one question for Daniele. Anybody have a question about farmers markets? Such an important part of connecting farmers to consumers. Last chance. Okay, here we go.
Oh. So thank you, Daniele. I've got one question. The sustainability in your system, is that controlled by external controllers and audits, or is that an internal system?
We have three steps of control. The auto control, the control of Campagna Amica Foundation, and the control of third entities that certificate the farmer also on this important thing. Okay, documentation, everything.
Thank you so much. And next up, we're going to hear from Denitsa Marinova. Denitsa, are you here? There you are, right there, ready in the front. Let's have you go up and present. And just a reminder, you have maximum 10 minutes for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation from the organizers, from the nice introduction. For this session, I will briefly share with you our experiences in the Citizen Interact Europe project. on local public policies that support urban farming. This is our partnership. We are 8 partners in 5 European regions, mostly in southern parts of Europe, and 1 German partner. In Sofia region, we are 2 partners, ARC Fund, we are the lead partner of this project, and the Sofia municipality through the Sofia Development Association and with the big role of the Sofia Green program. You will meet the leader of the Sofia Green program tomorrow, it's Elitsa Panayotova. From Greece, we have a partner that is a regional authority for the Central Macedonia. We have Baixo Alentejo partners from Portugal, a municipality, the Beja municipality, and Simbal, which is an intra-municipal structure that coordinates local policies. From Castile and Leon, we have the University of Valladolid and the National Heritage Foundation, which is a managing authority of the local regional operational program. And our German partner is the Frankfurt Regional Park, who is managing the green belt of the city. I will be very brief in introducing our project. As being part of the Interact Europe program, we are focused on enhancing local public policies that can boost urban farming development. We have developed action plans with some support measures that were tailored to our regions. We have gathered good practices. You can see them in our citizen handbook, which is available on the project website. In Citizen, we consider urban farming as a broad definition, as a source of environmental, social, economic values for citizens and for more sustainable and resourceful cities. So according to our observations and experiences in the 5 citizen regions, it seems to us that public policies are more supportive to social and educational benefits of urban farming initiatives as a starting point over the commercial ones. And the reason behind, in our opinion, are related to the fact that social and educational benefits of urban farming projects are more tangible for the society. They can be more directly linked to food security, access to fresh food, healthy eating habits, and for greening cities, not only as landscapes, but for better waste management. And this makes it easier for policymakers to justify their support to such activities with clear social benefits. Furthermore, this type of urban farming projects are very well aligned with popular public values like contribution to human health, public welfare, community strengthening and building communities, and sustainable lifestyles. So by supporting such activities, policymakers can justify their commitment to priorities that are high in the policy and agenda and very important for the society. On the other hand, business-oriented urban farming activities may face some challenges related to access to capital, to space, to technologies, also some competition of local other food producers, some regulatory hurdles as well. So this might make policymakers more hesitant to support such activities as they see some risk in efficiency to deliver economic goals. And last but not least, urban farming with social and educational purpose have a broader impact. They can reach a bigger group of people. They are more appealing to citizens. So this might be the type of area and sector that public policies are looking for. to support activities with significant and long-lasting impact. I just want to highlight that we do not give a priority to social effects of urban farming over the commercial ones. Our message is that public policies should support all effects, all positive effects of urban farming, either as a sequence or hand by hand to get holistic effect for the cities. I think there. Okay. Okay. So in the next slides, I will give you some examples of new public policies and policy changes that was made thanks to our project and the exchange between our regions. I will start with the Castilla y León region. They have launched new investment priority on environment and climate change and announced a call for proposals for urban school gardens. So already they approved and financed 65 projects of 65 schools. They are under construction for the moment. In Belgium municipality, there was a nice intervention by the Belgium administration. They allowed local urban farmers to sell free of charge at the Santo Amaro's market. This initiative started during the pandemic as a support measure for people that have lost some income. Also, together with the symbol, they are developing a program to fund, again, school gardens with some mobile applications to do some gamification. In Sofia, we worked with Sofia Green Program. There is now an experimental call to fund mini gardens, mini vertical gardens for small children, for kindergartens. And this is after a pilot action we made to create prototypes of do-it-yourself vertical gardens. So for children, we adapted the designs to be more rounded and secure. An example from Greece, from the Central Macedonia. Again, there was an intervention within the regional operational program there. Call for proposals were launched for local municipalities to build green rooftops. So one municipality applied, and already there are 4 public building rooftops available. This is an example from Frankfurt. It's not a policy we have influenced, but it's a good practice that started before our project. It's an example of public-private partnership for policy. It is about an educational farm and farm stations that are along the green belt, the circular road of Frankfurt, and was established in a partnership with the local authorities, the regional park, and the local farmers. And it is also a good example of how land conflicts can be tackled, because there are some conflicts between the local farmers. They use agricultural equipment, and the cyclists that use the same spaces. So the farmers invited the cyclists to visit the farms to have some food experiences there. And many other examples we have of allotments and community food labs. On the side of business models, we have explored some, okay, in our regions. I will just highlight one interesting initiative of Association of Producers called Valaculit. It is an association of local producers and urban farmers that help them to connect with school canteens, with municipal bodies and the social services that are associated with them. So it's a marketing challenge for their fresh produce. We had a survey with 150 respondees, entrepreneurs, civil society groups, households, citizens, on what would be the most urgent support measures for their urban farming projects. So I will just highlight one interesting measure, the vouchers for mentoring and consultancy, not only to launch and sustain community garden, but also as an incubator program to support innovative project of startups. And of course, regulations are very, very important factor to set the scene for urban farming development, especially if regulations can empower hobby farmers to sell their produce to citizens. We gathered also feedback on how COVID-19 pandemic influenced urban farming activities. It's caused a positive trends, of course. It's highlighted the importance of the local food economy, the local community, as many people turn to their neighborhoods. Of course, urban farming was an opportunity for people in economic hardship. There was rise in donation and charity actions during the pandemics. And of course, it also stressed the importance on having a good health condition. Anyway, okay, this was my presentation.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Very interesting findings and the focus on social as well. And I love the name City Zen. It's just like Zen our cities. One question for Daniela? Whoever's first, anyone? Last chance? Okay, let's have another round.
Can I have?
You want one? You
Yeah,
can
I
ask.
have a question. We saw the same effect from the pandemic, like a higher interest for direct selling, but we see now that it didn't keep that, how to say, people just stopped the movement of selling directly,
Okay.
because they have like less budget now these days. And volumes are just less than before COVID even. So it's a bit like, do you experience the same? Can you tackle this or?
We didn't assess quantities, or we just wanted to see the trend, the perception on urban farming and how it was changed due to this crisis. And we made the survey right after the pandemic and after the lockdowns were over. So since then it happened, it's 1 year time, and maybe there are some changes. But anyway, for Sofia, we asked community gardeners here, and they say there is a queue, a waiting queue to get allotment there, and it's really partly due of the pandemics, and that people appreciated going in open air, having physical activities, mental balance, and fresh food. So.
Okay, thank you.
It's very interesting to look at this effect of COVID pandemic and to what extent it also really triggered a change. And I think it's a very different picture for different countries, right? Like in the Netherlands, it's clearly increased enormously the amount of direct selling. Also the number of CSAs, consumer groups, have increased very much, while previously it was thought that only direct selling business to business was viable. Now there's a lot of business to consumer initiatives. I also know from Spain that there has been a very strong increase in direct selling initiatives. So I think it's a very differentiated picture. And at the same time, I think it can be very relevant and very interesting to understand better what are the drivers of that and how we can also maybe influence that.
Yeah, well, our historian as well, I bet the crisis in general has been a driver for urban agriculture throughout the wars and pandemics and what happened with Cuba, with the blockade, all of that. Okay, thank you so much. Another round of applause. Now, our next speaker comes from the Big Apple. Let's hear it for Yolanda Gonzalez from New York City.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yolanda. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. So, as Henry mentioned, I'm from New York. I traveled a long way, so I'm excited to be here. I'm going to be talking about the commercial opportunities in urban agriculture from a New York City perspective. So I'll give a brief background and overview of urban agriculture, a few case studies, and highlight a few of our challenges. Before I get into that, just to share a little bit of personal history, my grandfather was a farmer in Puerto Rico. So while farming has always been in my blood, I didn't really have much exposure to it growing up in the suburbs of Long Island. So it wasn't until I volunteered on farms in Vermont and Italy that I was really exposed to agriculture. So I just wanted to bring this up as to speak to the importance of agriculture and exposing agriculture to youth and young adults, and how that could really shape the trajectory of their life and career. For those that aren't familiar with Extension, we're essentially an extension of Cornell University. So we work with farmers to translate the latest science-based findings, and we work with them to provide technical assistance and educational programming. So I'm part of a regional team that's based throughout New York, and over the years we've added more and more people that are either urban ag specialists or urban garden specialists. And so we work not just in urban agriculture, but we work to advance agriculture in general throughout the state. And this is our office in Brooklyn. As I mentioned before, the role of my position is to work one-on-one with urban growers. I say urban growers to encompass both commercial farmers and also gardeners. I define commercial, myself and my colleague define commercial as growing $1,000 more in produce sales a year. So in addition to working directly, we provide technical assistance, usually one-on-one consultations around food safety. Any pest and disease questions, we're usually just a text message away or an email away from answering any question that an urban grower would have. Some of our projects, I didn't include it in that list, but we have a pocket guide of beneficial insects that was translated both in English and Spanish. We work with a lot of diverse communities. One of the projects that I spearheaded in the last 3 years is this community mushroom educator network. So instead of having one expert in the state or in the city that can teach mushrooms, we're pretty much increasing educational capacity so that there's a network of people that can teach mushroom cultivation throughout the city and throughout the state and also the Northeast. And so after completing this training, you would get essentially a certificate that certifies you to teach in other areas. And we focus on mushroom cultivation also because you're increasing production in small spaces. That photo on the top right is wine cap mushrooms being grown with garlic. So you're maximizing production in these small spaces. So we're teaching these types of methods so that essentially we're increasing capacity and also financial viability on these urban farms. In addition to that, we also do research and ginger trials. So we chose ginger because it is a high-value crop, and you could sell it at a pretty high price in New York City, roughly $15 to $18 a pound. So we're looking at different crops that farmers can grow at a high price so that they're able to make a living. And to provide an overview, in terms of urban agriculture in New York City, it's not just soil-based, it's looking at CEA, controlled environment agriculture. A few examples to highlight here in the top right is Empress Greens, and this is an urban farm that's part of a housing complex. So this is an example of seeing urban agriculture as an amenity to an existing building. So if you're either looking to rent or purchase, you could, have a gym, an office, and you could also enjoy an urban farm. So that's sort of the attraction of potentially living in a complex like that. In addition to seeing urban agriculture as an amenity, there's also the opportunity to see it in terms of an agritourism lens or an urban agritourism lens. This example here of rooftop reds, it's essentially a rooftop space that's growing wine grapes in containers. They import a lot of the wine from the Catskills, but it's an opportunity to learn about wine production, to attend some of the events, get wine tastings, and all of that. So something that is really unique about New York City that separates it from the other urban centers throughout the state is that there's a lot of municipal support. Green Thumb is a program of the Parks Department, and so they distribute to their network of 500 community gardens throughout the 5 boroughs. They distribute resources like lumber and soil and free educational programming. So this is an example of real true municipal policy support around promoting urban agriculture in New York City. That was hard fought. It wasn't just something that, was given to citizens, but they really had to demonstrate that there was the potential for urban ag. A few examples. La Finca del Sur is an example in the South Bronx of Black and Latino farmers that came together to really transform this urban lot. And connecting back to heritage, they're able to grow culturally appropriate food, epazote, cilantro, papalo. These are all, hard to find fresh herbs. If you were to go to a grocery store or supermarket, it's not something that you can easily find. So having these green spaces is really important to be able to access culturally appropriate food. Like I mentioned, there's also the potential of community gardens for generating profit. So in the top photo here on the left, that's a shared table as part of a Saturday morning farmers market in East New York. And so all the gardeners come together and they pool all of their crops. And whatever profits they make go back into the garden. Another example is Hellgate Farm, which produces hot peppers. And they have beehives as well on the rooftop. And they sell hot pepper infused honey. So it's an example of a value-added product that can increase the financial viability of these urban producers. Another example is the Bronx hot sauce, and that is made from serrano peppers that are grown by community gardens in the Bronx. The profits, again, go back into creating more economic sustainability for these gardens. We have been doing a lot in the last 5 years in terms of cataloging all the different spaces and kind of seeing what is commercial, what are community gardens, school gardens, where they're located, what are the needs, what are the gaps. Another example is Brooklyn Grange, and over the past 10, 11 years, they've really grown. They had 1 site, and now they have 4 sites. Their latest site has a greenhouse, so it's an example of incorporating not just soil-based, but also having hydroponics. And something to note, again, is this theme of urban agritourism. They're a big space for weddings, for events, for corporate retreats, you name it. So these are also really important gathering spaces, too. Red Hook Farms is an important educational site, so it's, again, exposure to youth and educational programming. It's also stacking of different impacts, so they have a farmer's market, nutrition classes, an internship program. Oko Farms is a great example of an outdoor aquaponics, and in this case, they're not just selling to restaurants and they have their farm stand, but they also it's a business model because they're selling educational courses. So you can take an online educational course and learn about how to set up your own aquaponics system. Also, what I like about this project is that they use modular systems, so it's all growing bags. A lot of times in urban places, there's heavy soil contamination, so having a modular system makes it easy to work around that. New Roots is another example. They What's great about this project is the urban-rural linkage. They work with rural producers to bring down produce, but then they add on the culturally appropriate crops that are grown in the garden. And we talked about the impact of the pandemic and really urban ag as being seen as filling in the gaps in the disruptions in the supply chain. So that was seen through these community hubs and also these what's called community solidarity fridges. So they were essentially places where excess crops can be stored and anyone can have access to it, whoever's hungry. It's another tool for food security. I know I have a minute left, but urban agriculture also falling under this lens of green infrastructure and policies like the Climate Mobilization Act, which gives incentives for green roofs and things like that. Indoor farming, it's all part of the equation. Henry mentioned earlier this morning this divide between soil-based and CEA groups, but really extension and also the mayor now of New York City is seeing it all part of the solution, so not trying to pit one against the other. And the landscape has really changed over the years. So I helped write this report with New York State Agriculture and Markets, and really trying to see how can we advance urban ag across the state and not just in New York City, and maybe we can learn from each other and create a network. And some of the challenges, obviously space, funds, knowledge. To address some of the challenges around knowledge and scaling up, I've helped write this curriculum, online curriculum with the USDA, which has several modules, and it's something that is going to be piloting for this upcoming fall. And please stay in touch. We use a lot of social media. We have an Instagram account that we like to post and highlight different producers and also announce upcoming events. And if you're ever in the city, please reach out.
Amazing. Thank you, Yolanda. Stay here for a second. Do we have any questions for our New York City representative? Yes, over here in the front. We got a couple questions. Let's get this one first.
Oh, I was the first, okay. But I have two questions. One is about newcomers. So not traditional farmers, but newcomers. Do they play a role in the policies of New York City? And the second question is about networking all over US. So what are the networks in exchanging with Detroit or I don't know, other cities?
You mentioned newcomers. So really everybody that is in New York City can be considered a newcomer. Like the next generation of farmers will come from cities. And so it's, yeah. And what's great about the farmers in New York City compared to the rural farmers, they're not tied to a certain type of farming, right? They haven't invested all this money in infrastructure or equipment, so they can really be innovative in how they approach urban agriculture. And what was your second question?
Network, US network, because we are
Yeah.
thinking also about networking across Europe, so what's the best way to do this?
So there's a few networks that we're a part of. One is BUGS, it's the Black Urban Growers Network, and so that's kind of one. And then also there's the Urban Food System Symposium, and that gathers different cities across the country. But there needs to be more in terms of, having one that connects everybody. But I would say it's more on a regional approach.
Okay, we'll take one more. There's an enthusiastic question. Okay, looks like you're popular.
Okay, thank you first of all, because it was a very thorough and complete taxonomy of urban agriculture in New York City. I have a question. I've seen on your slide the terms food sovereignty. It is true that this project helps food sovereignty, but this is something complex, something multi-phase. There are some other aspects about food sovereignty in these projects. For example, there is a sort of exchange of seeds, of certain programs to find common trends and find common objectives and to allow exchanges among gardeners and farmers.
Yeah, Wait, what was your question?
You want to have food sovereignty defined
Yeah,
in the US?
if there are some programs for allowing, for example, seeds exchanges and...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think in New York's food sovereignty is a little bit of a different meaning than what's being interpreted here. So maybe you want to explain like what it means in the context of New York, because I think it's very specific to the US condition.
Yeah. Well, I think it kind of also talks about the difference between like food security and food sovereignty, right? Food security is just like having enough food, and then food sovereignty is having the ability to control your own food supply and the access to growing your own. So I think that's definitely present in New York City. And in terms of like seed exchange and things like that, there is some, but that's not a big focus. I would say it's just having access to land that's the big component of food sovereignty.
Yeah, land and like driving policy, and I think the Bronx is a great example of this because it's been left behind from food policy and food access, and so there's a big move to give sovereignty to those residents to allow them to define their own food future, which they've been basically steamrolled over historically. Okay, looks like there's lots of questions. Yolanda will still be here. Great presentation. I miss New York City. I'll be there in May, thank goodness. And I was happy to see 3 of my clients in your presentation, so just saying. Okay, last but not least, we have Mr., excuse my pronunciation, Zsolt Keresztúri. Okay, it's okay. I'm Czech, not Hungarian, but I did okay. From Suave, so let's have a round of applause, and we look forward to your talk.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, it's good, okay. So I have 2 good news. The first one is that lunch will follow my presentation. And the second one is that I will speak about money, about concrete money currently available for players in urban farming, urban agriculture. Yes, so my name is Zsolt Keresztúri, as you pronounced it 95% correctly. I am cluster manager at InnoScart, a digital cluster Hungary, and I am representing here a Eurocluster called Suave, which is focusing on urban agriculture. We have altogether 1 million euro to distribute to small and medium-sized companies inside the European Union and some other countries. We have an alliance of 5 entities from 5 different countries. However, of course, it doesn't mean that applications will be accepted only from these countries. I have also here Enric from FEMAC, Spain. And online we have Claudia from Vegepolis, which is a French cluster actually, and they are the lead partner. And we have a Lithuanian and a Polish partner as well. So just very briefly about the main goals and challenges of SUAB, and then I will get to the funds. So we would like to build a network. We would like to innovate, accelerate the twin transition, increase competencies by trainings, and expand globally. So promoting internationalization of small and medium-sized companies abroad, mainly in the US, Canada, and Mexico. We say these countries because we had made a study, and these were the results. Of course, we made a small mapping inside the ecosystems of several European countries, and we see the 5 following challenges: the diversification of products and services, green transition, bridging the skill gaps and supporting a bigger participation of women, and increasing business opportunities via internationalization. Who can get funded? The company or the entity must be a European SME, and here we have to take into consideration the European terms of SME, since, for example, in Hungary it's a little bit different. It has to provide services, products, supplies, and technologies for the European urban agricultural food system, and has to be directly or indirectly linked to at least one of the types of urban agriculture, which is rather a wide scope, I would say. And you see it's really a wide scope. We have identified, I think, 24 subsectors of urban farming. I hope that all initiatives will meet these requirements, so we'll go to one of these subsectors. Of course, applicants must also fall under the territorial scope of SUAB, which are all EU countries and non-EU countries which are associated with COSME of the Single Market Program, so Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein, Ukraine, but also SMEs from outermost regions of Europe are allowed to get funded, are allowed to submit their proposals. You have time for the first call, I would say, because we will have a second one until the 30th of May. We have already several applications. Then we will have about 2 months to evaluate by external evaluators. We will make public the results at the beginning of August, and then we start the contracting phase, and from October you can start your projects. What kind of projects do we support? We are awarding 25 SMEs in the first call, I emphasize again, with a contribution of 20,000 euro per SME. This must be deployment of a new to firm products or technologies, and you must have a minimum level of 4 CRL and TRL level. We will have also 25 SMEs with a financial support of 1,000 euro. This means that you can, these are the so-called, let's say, travel vouchers, if you can say. So if you want to go to an FUA conference to Helsinki, to Sevilla, or to Budapest, then you can use this money for this one. And also there is a lump sum of 5,000 euro, which is basically, which might be used for getting access to consultancy in greening and in digitalization. There is one rule: altogether, one SME cannot get access to more than 60,000 euro, but you can apply to different funding schemes actually. And there will be a fourth one. It's a kind of prize. It's also 20,000 euro. As you will be you will see from the text call, it's more a contest. How can we apply for the funds? We have created a platform. This is suabe.grantplatform.com. So you have to fill the online application. Before, of course, you have to read the call text very thoroughly. And as I told you, evaluations will be done by external evaluators, so not by us. For example, myself, I am not an expert in urban agriculture. I am more an expert in business models, but in this room there are at least 40 people knowing better urban agriculture than I do. That's why external experts will evaluate. And here you can find us, and you can find me, of course, during lunchtime, during the afternoon, the field visits tomorrow. So I would be happy to talk to you and to have questions now or later on, or maybe Enric can also respond to these questions if I am unable to do so. Thank you very much. Na blagadarim, vagy blagadarim.
Amazing, so efficient, and what an opportunity. What an opportunity. This is great. Grants, money for urban agriculture.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So do we have any questions? One question, because we have to speed up for lunch. Nobody wants money?
Yeah, if there's no question, my question is, okay, it's working. Which European institution is standing behind that giving of money?
ECCP, which is the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. They are behind the Euro clusters. And there are 30 Euro clusters altogether in Europe. and one of them is focusing on urban agriculture.
The Euro clusters are who is managing them? Is this DG Innovation, DG Agri? DG?
It's not. It's a DG Innovation. Yeah, it's not
DG Innovation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How is there a rule on how long the European company is established? For example, if it's a brand new EU company.
Well, there is the self-assessment. So if you are allowed to send your application in, then you are an SME, which is
as long as you can. There's questions.
As you can, yeah, but probably since you have to show some financial issues, if you just set up the company today and you want to apply tomorrow, you cannot do that.
Yeah,
But you don't have to be 5-year-old or even 1-year-old. So
okay.
It really depends if the system allows you to become an SME.
Got it. Thank you so much. Let's have a round of applause here. Thank you. Well, thank you to all our speakers in this session for being very efficient, and thank you to my co-moderator. Next up, we have lunch. However, there are lots of rules. You cannot access your lunch without this very important white piece of paper. So dig through your pockets, find it. If you have any questions, you can bother one of our hosts. She's waving in the background. But you need this white piece of paper, and you need to go through a specific lunch system. Okay? You have 50 minutes for lunch, and then we want to get back here and start on time. What? Yeah, please be back on time. The previous session began 15 minutes late, so I'm really disappointed in you. Too much coffee, too much networking. So go eat quickly and come back and learn some more. Thank you so much.